Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode here on this channel. I would like to take this opportunity for the over 1,000 new subscribers over this short period of days. We are very grateful and we welcome you here. In today's episode, we go deep with our brother into his life as a pastor who served under his senior pastor. In this conversation, he reveals to us the kind of this that will leave you speechless after this conversation. If you are new here, this is Dangerous African Confessions HD, where we bring to you confession stories to help you make your own informed decisions about your walk with God and to help you live a purposeful life. Without taking much of your time, let us go and listen to the story. Please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also do like and share this video, so others out there can also benefit from this conversation, and hit the notification bell as well, so you will be notified anytime we upload videos.
My brother, I want to say that there was a time when I was full of zeal, eager to serve God, to lead His people. Straight out of seminary, I was bright-eyed and determined to make a difference. I thought that ministry was all about healing souls, guiding the lost, and spreading the message of salvation. My journey led me to a prestigious church, one that had been in the community for decades, pastored by a man known for his influence and power. When I was first approached to join the church, I felt honored. The senior pastor, with his charismatic presence, was a man who commanded respect. His words resonated with so many. He took me under his wing, promised to mentor me, and showed me what it meant to be a leader of the flock. Little did I know, my mentor's teachings had very little to do with God, and everything to do with power and control. The first time I saw the darker side of ministry was in the way he interacted with people. He would smile, comfort, and console the congregation, but behind closed doors, he spoke of them like tools to be used, manipulated, and controlled. I wouldn't want to bore you with so much of these things. So, let me just go straight into the subject matter. You see, when it comes to ministry, he made me to understand over time that there are things that, in order to be successful and powerful preacher or minister, you need to know and have under your sleeve. And I can tell you today that most of the senior ministers or fathers of the faith do these things in order to be where they are. What I mean is that he took me through something he called the 4 pillars of ministry. So, I would want to take you through one after the other, so that, when your listeners notice some wherever they may find themselves, they will know what to do. The senior pastor's first lesson to me was one I never expected to learn in seminary. It was about manipulating the emotions and faith of the congregation, bending them to your will. At first, I didn't understand. He showed me how to craft a sermon that played on people's deepest fears, insecurities, and desires. He taught me to make them feel guilty about their weaknesses, about their failures, and how to use that guilt to drive them to give more money, more time, and more of themselves. You see, my brother, I want you all to understand that, when I first began my journey under the pastor's guidance, I had no idea what lay ahead. I was eager to serve, believing that ministry was about selflessness, about guiding people to God. As many out there might also believe. The thing is that, the lessons I was taught started with the way he spoke to me. He had a way with words, a manner of speaking that could sway the hearts of anyone who listened. He was a master of persuasion. His words could make people feel as if their very souls depended on what he said. And he wasn't just preaching the gospel, he was manipulating the congregation's emotions, bending them to his will. You see, one day, as I was sitting in his office after a particularly successful service, he shared with me the first secret to ministry success. He revealed to me that people don't come to church to be told the truth. They come to be told what they want to hear. And if you can give them what they want, they will follow you, no matter where you lead them. It didn't make sense at first. Wasn't preaching supposed to be about truth? But then he explained, slowly, his method. He took time to explain to me that, as a minister, you must learn to read the room, to understand the emotional state of your congregation. And if you can tap into their fears, their guilt, their desires, you can manipulate their hearts. And when you control their hearts, you control everything, what they give, what they believe, what they do. No matter what you believe or who you are, he had a way of making you feel that, whatever they do there or we were doing there is for a higher purpose. He often said that, doing that is not just manipulating them for your own gain. You're doing it for their good. You're leading them to a better life. You're guiding them through their struggles, helping them overcome their deepest fears. You see, it became clear to me what he meant over time when I served him. Because every Sunday, I would see him in action. And I fully understood whatever he meant by that. My brother, I must tell you that I was really mentored in how these things are done and done properly. Again, I will tell you that all the pastors across Africa and the world at large that talks about giving, sacrifice and all that are operating from the same blueprint. The first thing when it comes to the point of manipulating of the members' ID, what they call the crafting of guilt. Let me explain this to you with example. One Sunday, I observed the senior pastor deliver a sermon that would forever change the way I viewed ministry. The topic was faith and forgiveness. But, as he spoke, he began to weave a powerful narrative, one that dug into the deepest parts of human insecurity. He spoke of sin as though it were a shadow that clung to every soul, one that could never truly be shaken off. The more he spoke, the more the weight of guilt seemed to settle on the congregation. These are not the exact words, but I can craft some right away for you to understand what I mean. It goes like, you all know what you've done in secret. You know the lies, the cheating, the unforgiven sins that weigh on your hearts. How can you ask for God's blessing when you hold these things inside? This powerful speech holds the power to make anyone sitting there to be uncomfortable. But you see, truth be told, no one can be a sinner in Jesus Christ. Because he bought you with his blood. He's paid for your sin before, now, and forever. You only need to acknowledge your shortcomings and try to work on them. You see, the moment they say something along that line and sees that it is taking control over the congregation, that's when they will strike. At this time, they will speak about the need for deliverance from these sins, for people to release their guilt in order to receive God's favor. And then comes the call that, if you want to be free from this weight, you must give to God. And at this point, my senior pastor often used these lines, your giving is the first step towards your own deliverance. My brother, tell me if you really don't understand the scriptures, and you are being told to do this for your own salvation, won't you do? That I tell you is the hook that always gets people. Back at church, the moment the words left his mouth, the atmosphere in the room changed. I saw people who had barely made ends meet scrambling to reach into their pockets, digging for whatever cash they could find, motivated by the promise of spiritual relief. Some gave a little, others gave a lot. The guilt had led them to believe that their donation was the price of their salvation, that their offering was a way to atone for their sins. I watched in silence as the senior pastor collected the offering with a knowing smile. He wasn't just preaching to save souls, he was collecting resources to build his empire. The second point under the manipulation that I want to talk about too is the use of something they call the emotional highs and lows. Yes, I want to talk all these things, so that people will understand the secrets of the men they have so much trust in. As time went on, I began to notice a pattern in the senior pastor's sermons. Every Sunday, he would craft a message that alternated between emotional highs and lows, pulling the congregation through a cycle of elation and despair. One week, it would be a powerful message of hope, of breakthrough, promising that everyone could have their dreams fulfilled through faith. The next week, it would be a message of judgment, condemning those who had fallen short, emphasizing that God's wrath was imminent for those who hadn't fully given their all. It was a constant roller coaster, a never-ending emotional pendulum. And just as people began to feel the weight of their inadequacy, the senior pastor would bring them back up with a message of hope and a call to give. That is the pattern, the blueprint in ministry which all these pastors use. You will not understand any of this if you have not been in close contact or work with them. There is a line that he always liked using also when he is coming to take from the congregation. He will go like, God is ready to bless you, but are you ready to receive? Know that your giving will open the doors of heaven, but you must give sacrificially. Don't hold back, because God won't hold back his blessings. He would often speak in such a way that it felt as if the fate of each individual hung in the balance. It was as though every decision to give was tied directly to their future, their happiness, their prosperity. And the pressure was unbearable for many. They felt that if they didn't give enough, they would miss out on God's favor, so they gave more. My brother, whilst I was there, I began to witness how some members, already struggling financially, would donate their last penny, convinced that God would reward them tenfold. Others, in their desperation, would take out loans or use credit cards just to keep up with the demands of the church. But no matter how much they gave, it was never enough. The more they gave, the more the senior pastor demanded. He would often tell me, "You must always make them feel like they're not doing enough. Guilt and fear are your best tools. The more you make them feel that they're lacking, the more they will give." He told me, people need to feel like they are always in debt to God, always striving for salvation. These big churches are not about salvation. It is about making people feel that they owed something, constantly. I watched as the senior pastor would craft sermons that could bring a tear to anyone's eye. His words made the people feel as though they were not enough, never enough. And that's when it began. The calls for more giving, more service, more devotion. The faithful emptied their pockets, giving their all, believing that they were sowing into the kingdom of God. Over the number of years I served under him and under his tutelage, I couldn't stop watching each and every gathering, how crafty he became. Each Sunday, the same cycle. People would leave the service in tears, but with lighter pockets. And they did it willingly, because they believed that God's favor depended on it. You see, the real tragedy of all this wasn't just that the people were giving their money, it was that they were giving their hearts. They were being trained to believe that their value came from how much they sacrificed, how much they were willing to part with. And the more they gave, the more dependent they became on the church. It was a cycle of dependency, emotional, spiritual, and financial. By the time I realized the extent of the manipulation, it was too late. I had already become a part of it. I had already been conditioned to believe that this was what ministry was supposed to be. But now, as I look back, I see the true cost of it all. It wasn't just money that the people were giving, it was their dignity, their self-worth, their freedom. The truth is that it wasn't just about sermons, though. The pastor also knew how to manipulate people with displays of spiritual power. He would often perform what seemed like miraculous healings, prophecies, and spiritual encounters, designed to awe the congregation and convince them of his authority. He would claim to have received a divine word from God, sometimes speaking in tongues, other times with an air of mystery that suggested he was in direct contact with the heavenly realm. I remember one particular day when the senior pastor called a woman up to the front. She had been struggling with a chronic illness for years. He asked her to step forward, declaring that God had shown him she would be healed that very day. The crowd fell silent as he prayed over her, his voice filled with conviction. Moments later, she began to shout that she felt healed, that the pain had disappeared. The congregation erupted in applause. My brother, I later found out from himself that the woman had been instructed beforehand to say she had been healed. The senior pastor had orchestrated the entire event, carefully crafting the story to fit his agenda. And just like that, he had solidified his reputation as a man of great spiritual power. The testimonies that followed were carefully curated to give the appearance that miracles were happening regularly. The congregation, of course, believed it. They saw the miracles as a sign of divine approval, and they gave more time, more money, more trust. They were hooked.
This conversation with our brother is in three folds. The scripted manipulation of the church members is in two folds. And then the part where they ended up resorting to dark powers as a backbone for whatever they were doing at that place. We will continue from here in the next episode. Don't forget to please subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. My brothers and sisters, it is with a heart full of love and concern that I share these words with you. The journey we embark on as believers is one filled with hope, purpose, and a deep connection to the divine. But it is crucial to remember that this journey is not just about following a leader, it's about seeking the truth of God's word and protecting your spirit from manipulation and deceit. The story shared here is one of profound darkness, where spiritual leaders who should have been guides turned into manipulators, using the very faith you entrusted in them to control and exploit you. The practices and rituals described may sound distant or unreal, but let me make one thing clear: the enemy is cunning. He knows how to twist the truth, how to make something appear as light when it is in fact darkness. No one is immune to the dangers of false teachings and manipulative practices, especially when they are wrapped in the guise of spirituality. If you are in a place where your faith is being exploited, if the messages you hear leave you feeling spiritually drained, confused, or hopeless, it is time to pause and reflect. God calls us to discernment, to seek His truth with an open heart, and to stand firm in our relationship with Him, not with the church, not with a pastor, not with any human being, but with God Himself. No one can replace His presence in your life. You must remember that your relationship with God is personal. No one should stand between you and your Creator. A true leader will point you to Christ, not to themselves. A true shepherd will protect your soul, not control it for their own gain. Also, faith is not for profit. The gospel of Jesus Christ is a message of love, grace, and freedom. The faith we share is not a commodity to be sold or bartered. The promise of prosperity in exchange for your money is not God's plan. Give with a generous heart, but always in accordance with God's will, not because someone is manipulating you into believing that your blessings are tied to financial sacrifice. Again, I will entreat you to guard your heart against fear and manipulation. You see, fear is often used as a weapon to control. Spiritual warfare should never be a reason to live in fear or to give more than you can afford. You are a child of God, protected by His power, and no weapon formed against you shall prosper. No one should make you feel that you must constantly give, serve, or sacrifice more to be blessed. True blessings come from a heart that is fully surrendered to God, not from outward performances. If you find yourself in a situation where you are being manipulated, controlled, or used for someone else's gain, remember that you always have a choice. You can leave. You can find a way to rebuild your life and reclaim your peace. Don't fall for flashy promises or emotional manipulation. Remember, God's miracles are real, but they come with truth, love, and peace. Don't let anyone lead you astray for their own gain. Stay grounded, stay prayerful, and stay vigilant. I hope this message encourages you to be discerning in your journey in life. Thank you for watching, and remember, life is too short to make choices you regret forever. We shall meet again in the next video.